Welcome to the What I Meant to Say podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and I started these conversations because life doesn't give us do-overs. So this is a space where we get a chance to reflect and tell our story again, with more grace for ourselves, and hopefully make us all better for having listened. Today I caught up with fresh talent on the AVP scene and Be Better featured athlete Evan Cory. As a Louisiana native, Evan's path to volleyball success has been different than his West Coast counterparts. We connected on so much more than just volleyball success as we talked hurricanes, growing up with divorced parents, and how we can learn to turn life struggles into strengths to make you a better person and athlete.
Yeah, I think for me, that's kind of always been the most important part for me. It's like, who cares? Who's with you when you're good? It's the people that were with you when you weren't good. Is the ones that who care about you as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's like gets lost a lot in sports, is like the personal side of people. Yeah. It's like you become this machine of only volleyball. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like my favorite conversations, I'll go to tournaments, and like I love getting to know other people's stories. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I get to tell my story a good bit, but like there's so many other people that share this passion for our sport, and most of it's during most people's free time. Thankfully, it's like all of my time.
Yeah.
But like most of the time, it's
cool.
like people only get to do this for a certain period, and they're spending their free time either trying to go and play and be better, or watching us and like just admiring our craft. Yeah. So it's cool to, kind of flip that back on them. I mean, obviously, like you want to like watch me and be entertained by me, but at the same time, like you still have a story, and your story probably doesn't get to be told as often as mine does, and getting to meet those people and creating those connections and getting to know people's stories, I think, is the coolest part.
Oh, that's so awesome, because honestly I think that's the way we grow the sport, right? Like the cool thing that I've noticed is you get these ideas and I'm like, okay, why do I feel all this pull from I did a story last year from these beach volleyball courts in the vineyards in the Central Valley, because I drove past on a road that I had always driven out to my family's farm, and I looked and I'm like, there's volleyball courts over there. I turned down the road and I'm like, what's going on out here? And there's a volleyball story where you'd never even know one. Mm-hmm. And it's like that ability to be curious and take the time to ask someone else like what their story is. Like I'm all about that even outside of volleyball, but this is I've always felt the most comfortable in a gym or sitting there on the beach. And like our sport, everyone does have a story. And even that's what I love about Hermosa Beach is you're sitting there. I'm playing with a group of moms that has been, we've been playing at whatever level for 25 years. And you have Olympians that are practicing right next to you. You're like, okay, if I can just pick up one thing from that court, like I'm winning, right? And that's the fun thing. So, and I'm really curious because I've been watching the men's game so much because of Luke. Mm-hmm. And your background, I mean, I think, did you grow up playing beach? But
yeah, so I started playing beach, and then I moved to indoor because they were like, hey, you can get a scholarship. And I was like, all right, cool.
Was
awesome.
there boys volleyball in high school in Louisiana?
No, not at all. So most people would be like, oh yeah, like we struggle to have a high school team. We struggle to have a team in the whole state. So like It wasn't like, oh yeah, our high school can't find 6, 7, 8 boys.
Your state
state, we've had 8 kids that played.
Oh my gosh.
And so we all showed up to tryouts, and it was like, walked in the gym, congrats, you can walk, you're like,
we'll teach you.
Yeah.
And where were they, like distance, where were they coming from? How far were people driving?
For the most part, we had people all in like the New Orleans area, but there was probably like 2 or 3 kids that drive 2-3 hours, which I mean in Louisiana is far because it's not a big state.
Yeah, I mean that's far.
Yeah, and so I mean like twice a week they would just drive in, and we try and like accommodate by making practices like back-to-back days towards the weekend or something like that, just to try and get it to work.
And how was the coaching? Like, did you learn the game? I mean,
yeah, we had really good coaching. So my first coach indoor her name's Julie Hartley. She's, I don't know the exact number, but multiple time like state champion on the women's side for high school, and her son was the setter for our team. And cool. So like that's kind of how we got her as our coach to start. And then my stepdad now actually came in my 18s year.
Okay.
But he played professionally in Puerto Rico.
Oh, cool.
And he was married to Kim Willoughby for a while. So if people who
Okay.
don't know who
Yes.
she is, like
Go ahead.
gold medalist,
Yeah.
like
Legend.
volleyball player
Yeah.
for Team USA. So he's just been around the game forever. And I thought about quitting. I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't want to spend my parents' money. My 18th year, I just want to go and play beach somewhere. I just want to go be a student somewhere. And he was like, you need to go. You need to go and try. You're too good to not go and try to play college. And so he basically like gave up all of his salary for the whole year and coached the whole year pretty much for free, so I could play my 18th year, so I could go and play in college.
Wow.
And this was before he was my stepdad too, so I think he was just trying to impress my mom a little bit.
Well, that would work. Nice move. And it worked out for you.
No, yeah, I mean, incredible. So incredibly thankful for that. Because I mean, who knows what I would have done? Because I mean, that's a whole journey of 4 years of my life that just would have been completely different if that didn't happen.
I mean, I always say that about college. Like looking back, how 4 years is so fundamentally. It just changes your life, right? And it's only 4 years. So when you get farther down the road, it's like, oh, how did that make such an impression? But you're right. Like, and so you ended up at Lincoln Memorial. Mm-hmm. It was a new program, right?
Yeah. So my freshman year was the first year of the program. I was I think the first person to ever commit to the school.
Oh my gosh. That's
like
so cool.
for volleyball.
Okay.
And so, I mean, my story about committing is like the funniest thing ever. Cause I mean, at that point, like, I wasn't really heavily recruited or anything, and so I didn't visit until April of my senior year. That's when I visited.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like it's like deep in there, yeah.
But they're a new program. I mean,
yeah. I mean, and the coach like got hired in March and like called me up. He's like, "Hey, like I saw you're still not committed anywhere. Like I'd love to have you on campus." So I play Fud Puckers actually, like the 4-man beach volleyball tournament. I've become the youngest person to ever win the tournament. That Sunday. So it's actually gets better. So I'm at senior prom Friday night. I go awesome. Senior prom Friday night. My dad drives me through the night to go to Fuds, play Saturday, Sunday. So I get like 3 hours of sleep on Friday night, play Saturday. Then we end up winning on Sunday, become the youngest person to ever win the Open there. And then we jump right back in the car, get home like 10, 11 at night, and then I'm back on a plane at 5 a.m. So I had to get up at like 3 a.m. So like another 4 hours of sleep.
Oh my gosh.
And I leave to go and take this visit to the school I had no clue about in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why I say when you posted that picture from the Cumberland Gap, I was like, Evan, where the heck is this? Because I want to go there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And you're like, oh, that's where Lincoln Memorial is. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And, I mean, it was the most interesting college visit because, one, there's no team there. So the coach is just like, hey, here's this thing that we're thinking about. This is the vision. And he was like, I want you to be the focal point of the vision. And he's like, you can like be like a difference maker to start this program. And for me, I mean, like being from Louisiana, like, and there's no really that presence of boys volleyball. It's thankfully growing now. I mean, our club is like quadrupled since like I've been there, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And like, he was just like, just being able to be a trailblazer and kind of grow and like mold my own. I was like, I would love to do that. Like, that's kind of what I want. Yeah. I don't want to just go walk in, be another person to walk in, walk out. I want to be able to make a difference and like create a culture. And I mean, they're doing a great job right now. I mean, they're fringe top 15 the entire year. They've beaten multiple top 15 teams. And I think they're on a good route to becoming like a staple in men's volleyball that people are going to be a little bit scared to play against.
That's so cool. I know I started following them on Instagram after you made that post, and I've been paying attention to that there's like a grit behind that program. You can feel it, you know, and it's so cool to be a trailblazer, like you said, and to come in there. So did you have any hesitation, like with like, are you going to get more players? Or...
So, I mean, at that point, like, this is literally like how like my thought process as an 18-year-old was. I was like, I really like that. That's really cool that somebody believes in me enough that they want to try and build a program around me and try and find things to help build around me. But then the other thing was like, it was more just like, it's really pretty up here. Yeah. It's something very different from home. And like, I think that's kind of, I didn't really think about it as much then, but like something that I really needed because like, like the cultural shift and change of like a small town with 2 stoplights is so crazy compared to, New Orleans isn't the biggest city, but it's a city.
Yeah.
And so like
Oh, yeah.
city life compared to rural life, like that whole change of pace and getting to understand different cultures. And it was huge for me too, because we had a ton of kids, international, East Coast, West Coast, and so like they all had their different styles. And for me, New Orleans culturally, we're just kind of like a big gumbo pot, big gumbo pot of a bunch of different things. And so it was awesome to try and like as a leader on a team, understand the different cultures and try and bring all of the cultures together to where we could be a cohesive unit, rather than just like, oh, we've got 4 guys from California, 4 guys from Florida. They don't really mesh well. Those are 2 very different styles. Florida, Miami is very in your face. Like they don't care. And then California is almost the exact opposite. They're like, you know what? We don't want any conflict. We're going to be very laid back. Like, and so it was super interesting to like kind of see those 2 things and like try and like bring them together.
So did you end up captaining this team?
Yeah, for all 4 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I take it were you an opposite as a lefty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Opposite.
Yeah, playing all the way around. And those guys that came in, are you still friends with them today? Like, did you build relationships?
Yeah, super. Like my 2 of my best friends were like the same year as me, and we kind of were just the leaders on the team the whole way through. We had some like transfers and stuff that were older and stuff, and you have people come in and out, but like all 3 of us were pretty like strong personalities. 2 out of the 3 of us were the best players on the team, and then the third one was kind of like, he's that glue guy that like, not necessarily like the best player, but like he's like the best teammate. Like by far was the best teammate. And so I think that was like highly underrated, and like I got to appreciate that because like when you have a really good teammate, you don't realize how much you need them until you have them. And like I hadn't really had that until college. And so like I have this guy like no matter what, like super big hype man, like and then like they're just trying to inject energy always. They know their role and they're like, you know what, we're going to be the best that we can be in this role. And that was like, I think is like one of the most underrated like things
I totally agree
in
with
a
you.
team sport.
Yeah, like every championship team has at least one of those, and you can have a bunch of all-stars, and if you don't have one of those guys at least,
because when one time the thing goes wrong, then everybody starts splitting together, and that guy's like, nope, we're together still.
Yeah, those are my favorite pictures.
Yeah,
it's like and I have enjoyed watching this. This Stanford run has been such a impactful thing, and watching men and the way men support each other versus women, because obviously as a female athlete, it's I've come through that, but watching my son come through and see how they handle the dips, and man, there have been some big dips, but then the comeback and how that like gels a team together. And I can imagine coming, starting from scratch.
Yeah, there was a lot of ups and downs in the program, and like there's times where like we genuinely thought we weren't going to have a program, like because of because of events that happened. Obviously.
Well, yeah, but it's gut wrenching because you love the sport so much, and that's your opportunity to play, right?
Yeah.
And it's how do you get to that next level, like where you are now, if that gets taken away from you, right?
Yeah, I think my favorite story, and like it kind of has to be from like the glue guy. So he didn't really ever get to play, but like really good like teammate off the bench. But my last game ever is the only game I never played. I didn't play one match in my college history, and it was my last game ever.
Oh, that's kind of heartbreaking.
But we were playing a weaker team, and we played on a Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday we were going to play, or we played Tuesday, and then Friday, Saturday we're going to play Ball State and Loyola. So 2 top 15 teams, and like my coach was like, all right, you're getting a break. But it's like right when COVID's all happening. And so like the next day it was like COVID's starting to happen, things getting weird. And so like season ends up shutting down, but it's the only game I didn't get to play ever.
Okay.
But he took my spot in the game. So he started the whole time and like just balled out. And like,
isn't that the best?
It was so cool to kind of have the roles like reversed though. You know what I mean? Like then I got to be a hype man from him, and like it just like that role reversal was like the coolest thing ever. And like, like a moment where like you look back now and you're like, this is like something that just like makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And like he didn't take his 5th year. He went and he's becoming a doctor right now.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like
totally. And those
and so, like,
leadership
and, like,
skills, that dedication and those leadership skills, they go forward into
Yeah.
other things, right?
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, like, he wasn't going to get an opportunity to play again. So, like, I was so happy, like, that his last game ever, he was able to just go and, like, ball out. And,
that
like,
is so
and
cool.
It was so cool to have that moment.
That is so cool. So tell me about the role like your parents played in your development, because obviously, like you said, there's no boys playing volleyball in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So how did you come up in the game?
So I first started playing. My parents played out at Coconut Beach.
Greatest facility. Like I couldn't have been any happier
And just
when I got there
this
last
is
year.
this
Yeah.
okay. And I don't even want to bash like the new one.
Yeah.
But there was an old
Oh,
Coconut
that's right.
Beach.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the new one doesn't even like compare to the old one with how like cool it was, because like so basically how it's on the levee now, like
Yeah.
there's a levee
Yes.
there. It was on the other side of the other location, and it was
Okay.
on the water.
Oh, beautiful.
And that was like, it was so cool. There was
Yeah.
like a great like restaurants and stuff all around. It was just in a really good spot of town that was really central to everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just like all 20 of those courts were filled every single night.
How
And like
fun.
it was like,
So you grew up in that culture.
yeah. So I
Like-
mean, my parents both played like beer leagues, whatever,
Yeah.
forever. And then when I was around 13 or 14, like my mom, she stopped playing for a while. My dad always kind of played, but my mom started playing again with like some friends down on like court 14. And like, I mean, like when you're playing on court 14, it's not good. But like she would take me out every week, and just like I'd hang out for like 2 hours. They'd play, drink a little, have some fun, and like, but I would always want to play. I mean, like I've always just played sports in my life, and I'm like, I need just the competition, like seeing like, you know what I mean? And like, and it doesn't matter what the level, but you always see competition. You want to like, I'm that person. Like, I don't care what the game is. I actually had an argument with Safi about this weekend. She was like, we're playing cornhole, and you're telling me that you actually got mad when you lost at cornhole. I was like, damn right I did. Like, I want to win at everything that I don't care. I want to win. And so like seeing that competition, and then I was like, I want to play, Mom. I want to play. So like every week I started going out, and she's like, nope, can't play. Like, we have our team. Like, sorry. They'd find subs, whatever. And then 1 week they finally could not find a sub. And I was like, yes. And so we get the sub, or I get the sub, and they were like, wait.
You playing doubles or fours?
It was sixes.
So like, okay. I mean, it's,
yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, yes, I get to play. And then they were like, wait, he's actually like better than the guy that he's replacing right now. You know what? You're on the team now. And so now I was like on net 14 for like the first one. Then we like end up doing well, and we keep moving up a little. And then the owner of the complex kind of took me under his wing, and he had like a small group of juniors, like 7 or 8 of us, probably like 5 or 6 boys and like 2 girls. And like he would just run drills with us. And basically what he would do is before leagues would start, he would put us, he called them Bruce's boot camps. And basically what he would do, he would like just drill balls at us. Like we had to like make a certain amount of serves in a row, or if not, we're doing push-ups, like all kinds of different crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But basically just like trying to get us better. He'd bring out open guys. Like I remember
Just
like basically what he would do, like, this is when Sean first like started kind of breaking into open and like started playing in open. And he was playing this guy named Jeff Skiro, and basically what they were doing, they'd do hitting lines. So like straight up, like just like tossing the ball to each other, setting, and like super easy, super controlled situation. But we're on the other side, and Bruce is just screaming at them. He's like, hit every single ball at them as hard as you can. And like we just have to sit in there and like try and dig this ball.
Yep.
It was,
and you're what, 13? You said?
I was 14, 15 at the time, yeah. And I was like, this, what?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I was like addicted, and then like basically my mom started just bringing me out. Like she like loves telling the story. Like 6 nights a week, she would drop me off at like 6 o'clock. I'd already have all my homework done and everything. Drop me off at 6 o'clock, pick me up at like 11 o'clock when leagues are done. So like leagues started at 6:30, finished at like 11. And she's just like, all right, go out. And then I would just find pickup games. I try and sub on teams. I just pepper, pepper with somebody.
But see, what
like
a difference. And all I can think right now is what a difference from the California experience. That like kids, like we are so organized out here. And you're young. Mm-hmm. But these kids that are coming up behind you, everything's organized. And I just can't help but gravitate toward that organic experience of like, hey, this kid loves it. and he just wants to be dropped off and be out here. And then whatever comes at you, you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Right? Versus like, constant organization and hitting lines and the next lesson and the next technique. And you look at the girls coming out of college now and they're trained so beautifully. And I do think
I think there's an issue with the part of we're big on teaching this at home is like there's no creativity at that point. You know what I mean? Like when things get weird,
yes,
like you need to be good. And like most of the times when things get weird in college, that's where things get they struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's like
you
so
can see
like
something
it's
slip.
so cookie cutter, boom, boom, boom. We're in a system. You see something
slip and you're like, oh wait, I don't know how to defend that and that. What do I do? Versus
so
you lose the flow. Yeah.
Or you have this weird little like chicken wing touch that's like, or like kind of like one arm, just weird things that just happen within a game.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like sitting there peppering for like 30 minutes. And when you pepper for 30 minutes, you're not going to just pass set hit every time. You're going to do funky little fun things. You just get bored keeping yourself entertained. And like, I didn't realize it then, but like that actually helped me a lot. And then like, I even like, if I didn't have anybody to pepper with, I would just get to a point where I was like, I'm going to be a great hand setter. And so all I would do is just stand there and toss the ball as high as I could with as much spin as I could and just try and hand set it.
Yep.
And then just put this weird spin and stuff on it. I just want to be the best hand setter I can. So I'm going to make the most difficult ball and I'm going to try and set it clean.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and you
invent your own games.
Yeah.
Totally.
And like at that point,
takes me back.
I don't think I'm going to that's going to make a difference. But now I'm like in a game, I'm like, I'll hand set anything. I don't care. Yeah. Like, I'm not afraid of any pass or dig or any. I'll go and hand set everything.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's so fun to watch you play.
Thanks.
So you won Coconut Beach. That was was that your first professional tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Jason and I came last year, and that was that Louisiana Beach Week that Sean Ledig was like, you've got to come see this. It's going to be amazing. And then to have you guys and Taryn and Kristen, the Louisiana natives, win both sides.
It was your first win, right? Not first professional tournament.
I never actually technically, I guess, like qualified or anything or like done anything like that. No, you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know how to qualify as what. You know what I mean? But it was definitely like the most significant tournament like in my professional career at that point. It was the first significant tournament in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, with the check in your hometown on your home court. I mean, how fun was that just
still just like indescribable experience. It just felt like, I mean, in the moment it felt like a blur of like the whole weekend because I knew like, like everybody's coming in your hometown. I have a ton of people texting me, like asking to get out and train, asking for help, asking for this and that. And then like everybody is like, oh, this is a big event. I'm going to come out and watch. So like getting
stands
out and
packed.
Stands are packed. Like everybody's like after games want to come talk to you. And like, it was like just a draining weekend, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. Like the batteries on all ends were drained. And like, I remember before my semifinal match, like there's a little ref shack and like, there's a spot where we keep our balls and stuff for practice. And I just like went and we have like the boogie board that we use to like practice blocking. Yeah. And so I just like grabbed the boogie board and just laid down and like I could hear everything going on outside and then just like the peace and quiet. I was like, this is so nice right now.
Yeah.
And that was like my only moment of like peace where I'm not like running around like doing stuff. And it was so awesome getting to like celebrate and like be with everyone, you know what I mean? Like, and like, I feel like New Orleans is a lot about community. Yeah. And like, we're just a very supportive community. And like, no matter what, we're very big about our people. And if like New Orleans versus all y'all, right, Jason? He loves that. He loves that statement.
That. I love that hat. Yeah. Sean wears that hat.
I have the hat. Yeah.
But it was truly like it felt like that in that tournament, and like getting able to like experience that in the moment with everybody, and then after the moment where everybody's also there to like celebrate with you was just so awesome. Yeah. So awesome.
So was that the first time maybe you felt that overwhelm though? Like when you went to lay down? Like have you ever felt anything that intense before? Like as far as needing to pull away?
I mean, I'm like, this is kind of surprising. I feel like to most people, I'm pretty introverted actually.
Actually, I can tell that. Yeah.
But like, it's just like, if I'm like a lot of tournaments, like if I'm out talking a lot and like even just like out like whenever just like talking a lot, that's pretty socially draining to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever felt like the social drain with like the physical and mental drain of like playing a tournament like that though before. Like
it's a lot.
Yeah, it was just like an intense setting, whereas like some other tournaments where that kind of happens, like I don't feel like it was as big of a deal. You know what I mean? But like that one felt like, okay, like this is the moment, like you got to seize the moment.
Yeah.
And
so,
that weighed a lot.
How did you figure out that like this introverted gene, like, you know, that doesn't get talked about a lot, especially I don't think in male competition, and that sense of self-awareness, like how old were you, do you think, when you figured that out? Like, I kind of need my alone time. Or...
Yeah, I think I've always kind of known, like you just naturally, you know what I mean, like how you feel.
Yeah.
And like you feel in situations, you're just like, yeah. But like I feel like I've started learning how I need to interact and how I need to go about tournaments and how like what I need to do in between time, because that's, and like in these long tournaments, I mean, we played 6 matches, 7 matches in the 2 days, and like I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much the time in between is what really matters. And like how you manage that is really important. And like I think it's just through like experience of like doing the wrong things that I finally kind of learned, okay, this is how like, okay, and like you play better at a tournament, you're like, what did I do better? And then you're like, oh, it's because I wasn't like sitting out in the sun talking to somebody the whole day. Like I think that's like my biggest thing. If I'm out in the sun the whole day, I need to find shade. Like if I'm in the shade, I'm fine. I can be out, I can like relax, have like a few conversations here and there. I don't want to be out and about talking, like running around talking.
On your feet,
I'm totally fine like if I'm like sitting under like the player's tent or something and I'm having a conversation casually with somebody, but like going around and like trying to find people and talk, that doesn't work for me. Like
Cory, we have a shot of the match point. I just want to put that on.
Let's do it.
Cool. Let's do this. Let's do that.
That was so fun.
And you can see it. I mean, like
look at the atmosphere, dude.
Yeah. But like whenever this final ball goes down and we talk about like that physical like exhaustion, the mental exhaustion, like the emotional, that's all like right there. It's like finally it's done. We did it. This is so awesome. But like, wow, just like relief and like it's like done.
Look at the people leave the bleachers.
So fun. And you beat a good team.
Yeah.
Like, but man, it was human. Like, did you feel like you were used to?
I was gonna say, I love that. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I'd rather play in the heat. My thing is, I hate the cold. As long as it's not cold, it's all
totally
good.
With you.
But like, I'll take 100 degrees. I'll take 100% humidity. Like, let me feel the burn. Let me like have the sweat dripping off my hat.
You just hydrate, right?
Yeah.
And then,
But like, I've been doing it since I was 15 years old. I've been going out 6 hours a night in this weather and going and just playing. So like, that's what I love. That's what I love. And like, most people don't like that.
No, I grew up in the heat, not the humidity like that, but that's even here when it gets hot on the beach. I'm like, oh, I feel my body feels loose. I used to play not even volleyball, but grass court volleyball. One day, riding home from the tennis court tennis club where we played grass court volleyball in 105-degree heat, I flipped over my handlebars and like passed out. I played until, and the other thing I did was play basketball on the blacktop until I blistered my feet, and it was two huge learning experiences in the heat. But other than that, like if you hydrate, you feel so good, and the wind and the cold. Miserable.
No bueno.
No. And when it gets like that out here, it's so much harder to play.
Yeah. And I feel this is like the funniest thing. So we play so we're going to Mexico in a few days, but the qualifier for it was in Manhattan like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Oh yeah, we were watching a little bit of that.
But it was hilarious because it was a little bit warmer that day, and I think it got up to like 80.
Yeah.
And
people are dying.
I like pull up to the beach and like look at my phone, and like there's notifications like heat advisory. I was like 80 degrees with possibly up to 91. And I looked, I was like, 91 is the heat advisory? I was like, oh gosh. But then like Savvy comes up to me after, she's like, man, it was hot today. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm from a different place. This is beautiful. This is like a gorgeous day, like 80 degrees, not super humid. I would live for this every single day in Louisiana.
And everyone's just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah. And so like the funny thing for me, like during COVID and like our training schedule and stuff, it wasn't built for that, but like inadvertently it was built that I was practicing during the hottest part of the day. So I would go and coach in the morning from 8 to 10. And then 10 to 12, we'd have 2 back-to-backs. So you're already in the sun for like 4 hours, but it's thankfully a little bit cooler. Then we'd have a break, and then we'd practice from 1 to 3.
Oh, yeah.
And which is the hottest part of the day.
Oh,
and so, like, I mean, there was times during the summer where on sand temperature was like 125, 130. Oh, my gosh. Like, it literally feels like you're melting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, that one's not fun either.
No.
I say I might take the cold over that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it literally, like, you get to a point where it's so hot you can't even think. Oh, like you're literally thinking about. If
you've felt that, you have sustained some some very difficult playing conditions.
Yes. I was gonna say at that point you're not thinking about volleyball. You're like, how am I going to live?
Yeah.
Like okay, breathe.
Yeah. Breathe. I must breathe. I might need some more water.
Okay, we breathe there. Good. Okay,
yeah.
We check one.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, volleyball. Yeah, we're playing that too.
There's a ball coming at me.
Yeah. Defend yourself. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
So, as far as I'm actually working on a documentary right now that centers around the hurricane that just hit down in Louisiana last summer, and ironically, it was the anniversary of Katrina.
Yeah. And
so you've obviously lived through some of those. Both of those.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about those experiences?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I'll talk about Hurricane Katrina first, but then I'll also talk about Ida because, I mean, that was literally, it was a volleyball event, honestly, like because it occurred right before Chicago.
That's right.
But so the sports feel-good part of Katrina that I like, Katrina was kind of weird for me. I was only in second grade.
Okay.
Wasn't really like fully aware of things at the time, you know what I mean? I just know like, your mom's like, pack a suitcase, like we've got to go. And like we left the day before the hurricane. Wow. So like, and all of a sudden like you're just living in Florida we're leaving for Florida for the weekend. Then they're like, oh, okay, we're staying in Florida for the week. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're living in Florida for 3 months.
Wow.
So
and you did that in second grade.
Yeah. And so like had to move to a new school and stuff and like.
So they just drop you in a school and they're like.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. We thankfully had my aunt who I just visited in Panama City Beach, but she lived in Destin at the time. And her husband's a pastor for a church, and thankfully their church was gracious enough. They had somebody with like a vacation home there and was like, yeah, your family just use this. We're not here right now. Just use this. Wow. So that was incredible. But then also on top of that, like the church fed us every single night. They got all of our school supplies for us. They got like everything we could possibly need. So that during that time, I do know that was huge for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know much of what was going on, but I did know like these people are doing the best that they can to help us out. Yeah. And that was awesome.
And you felt safe? Like, that's. Which
was great.
Yeah.
I mean, we would watch TV every night and like try and like catch up and see. And we had it was me, my mom, my sister, and then my aunt and her 2 sons as well. Wow. But my aunt's husband was a first responder, so he was still back in New Orleans. Okay. And so like we were getting updates and stuff from him every night and like trying to figure out what's happening. And then my dad, so my parents were divorced, but my dad was in Louisiana as well too, but he was a little bit further away outside the city. Okay. But still all the same destruction and stuff, just not as much flooding. Okay. And I didn't talk to my dad for like 2 months. Like he didn't know if I was alive. I didn't know if he was alive. And then like one day, like I just remember like my mom getting a phone call from him, and like all of a sudden, like he called me and he just started like breaking down crying. Yeah. Because he's like, I'm just happy that y'all are alive. I'm happy that we're safe. And that's
day in and day out for 2 months. Mm-hmm. You don't know if your child is alive. I cannot imagine. Yeah. Like that is maybe the worst.
And all he sees is fear. Like,
I can't even
sees these pine trees snapped in half like toothpicks, and there's yachts on the interstate. Like like things that you would just like, that's like a movie. No, you know what I mean? That's not believable.
No, it's not. And when we went down there,
It's not funny.
No,
Sorry.
it's well,
But it's
and
crazy. It's
the
no, it's like surreal.
devastation-
It's like there's no way that's true.
The devastation that Lee and Sean were sending me after Ida, I'm looking. It doesn't look like. I mean, we have earthquakes out here, and that's devastating too. But to see the water damage and the flooding and
but then also the wind damage, and then it's crazy.
It is, and oh gosh, and then the way that the faith-based community comes in, and it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
And then the coolest thing for me, and this is where I feel like Katrina kind of gets tied back into sports, is like after that all happened, like there's a year like where everybody's just rebuilding. It's really down, and like it's tough. You know what I mean? Like you're literally 75% of the city that you know is just gone. And so like trying to like figure out where do we even start, like what's the next step, like do we even
and
like
not knowing
try and
that
rebuild?
another thing could come again. Like you guys are incredible in this fact that like everybody comes back and puts their all into it, and you're just hoping and praying like, okay, please don't come back and take us down again.
And so this is where like our football team, the Saints, came into play. So if you go and look, 2005, we were the worst team in the league. They didn't have a stadium. They didn't have a home. They were traveling all the time, trying to find a place to play. They played games at LSU's stadium. They played in Houston. They played everywhere. As their homes. There was no home stadium. But after that, we get the first pick. We get Reggie Bush. We get Drew Brees signed, which is awesome. I got to meet Drew Brees this weekend for the first time and got to thank him for what he did for our city, because it was so awesome.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
You just got just this past weekend.
Yeah. Literally,
Wow,
he was at church on Sunday at the same church that we went to down in Encinitas. Yeah.
Oh, no way. I love it when stuff like that happens.
So cool.
I mean, it's so cool.
But like then all this like crazy things happens, and then all of a sudden, like this team like who was terrible, literally worst in the league, makes the NFC Championship. Should have probably made the Super Bowl, and like there was the first game back in the Superdome, because the Superdome also took heavy damage. There was a lot of people being like that was their house for like
I remember
a month.
that. Yeah.
And like they're holding people to try and just like keep taking care of them, and so it was like kind of like eerie, you know what I mean, at that moment. And
it was
then
like a homeless
it was fine.
encampment.
Yeah. And then it finally like got redone, and the first game back they play the Atlanta Falcons, who was like worst rivals. Like I mean like
Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And we end up playing the Falcons, and there's a point in the game. First, there was U2 and Green Day. They did a live performance before. It's the House of the Rising Sun, which is about New Orleans.
Yeah.
And like
music.
they redid the verse as well to like kind of like
Tell the
story, and like I mean like that sends chills at first.
I gotta look that up.
If you want to even pull up the video, look up Steve Gleason blocked punt, Jason, and that is like. This is like probably like if I had to pick like a clip in like sports history, that's probably like the most meaning to me.
Impactful.
Because it's like there like you can literally just listen to it, and like even the announcer, if he pulls it up, the announcer literally he goes silent. He's like, I don't want to talk right now. He blocks the punt. We score a touchdown, and like everybody just like there is emotion. Like
oh my gosh,
I was at the game. You can't hear anything because everybody's just screaming so loud. People are crying because it's just like happiness, and it was like that resilience of like we're back.
Yeah,
we're back, and it was so cool to like. I mean, like sports just does that for people.
It does.
It just is like you know
what? It tells
what?
the human story like in 10 minutes and 10 seconds, and it's grit and resilience and hope and everything that everyone needs to get through any of these situations. So whether you're talking about an entire community or one person having a hard day, it's like that's what it always comes back to. And I always think about that because I've never played anything at any high level, but the things I've learned in locker rooms and master swimming and standing on the beach with people who just come out to play because that's their outlet, you know?
All right, so check it out. I don't want to put it up because I don't want her to get flagged, so it's behind you.
Okay.
Let's just take a look. The previous play, he got strip sacked, and they almost recovered the ball, so there was already this element of constant pressure. So
is the sound on here?
No.
No.
Okay. I don't want to get it taken down.
No, you're good.
Boom, there it is.
Blocks
Okay.
it. Mike recovered.
Blocked,
And
recovered.
nothing but white jerseys, dude.
Oh my gosh.
That was the first
So
score.
sweet.
I also
And then you
believe-
can, I mean, look, you can just see it, and it's just like
Yep.
everybody.
I also think Reggie Bush scored a punt on a return touchdown too.
Did.
So special teams came up with 14
Huge.
points on in this first home opener.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
Corey, you're always gonna have to tell that story better than everybody else because you're a New Orleans product. But even for the people who are watching on the national stage, because I don't know if it was a Monday night game or whatever.
It was a Monday night game.
It was a Monday night
prime
game.
time Monday night.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I got to skip school the next day because I was at the game.
that is so great.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but the guy that blocked the punt, his name's Steve Gleason. He has ALS,
I thought
but
so.
he's
Yeah.
got this massive foundation helping with all of that. And his thing isn't towards ALS research, but helping people with ALS still try and live a normal life.
Wow.
So, but his big thing, and it's kind of like true of ALS, because people are like, ALS, you don't really ever die of ALS. It's like more like your body, you give up, like, you know what I mean? Like the hope there is like, you know what, I can't live a normal life.
Okay.
And so like your body kind of
Yeah.
just starts shutting down on its own.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because of the play, his saying is never punt. So he's like never.
Yeah.
It's basically never
Go-
give up, and like
go
he's
big,
just, you know
yeah.
what, he's never gonna punt. He's never given up, and so like he's lived with ALS and like been this huge for like 8 to 10 years now. I
Wow.
want to say
And that is incredible. I've only known one person personally that had it, and it was
it's
the
it's
fastest,
devastating.
most devastating thing I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And it was quick. So that and I have to say, like, I love watching football, but part of why I love volleyball is because I do my heart goes out to the people who play that game
Yeah.
and take the hits and the injuries that they take, because there are lifelong complications and devastation that come with it.
Tell everybody what ALS is for the 1 or 2 people out there living
So
on an island.
I mean, I don't know what the actual letters stand for. I know it's Lou Gehrig's disease is
Yeah.
the most common name for it.
Right.
But basically,
I knew
it's
what it was. I'm a Yankee fan, so I knew it
Yeah,
was.
that Lou Gehrig story. Like,
yeah.
watch
But
that.
basically, it has nothing to do with your brain. But it's a disease basically where your body can like just start shutting down on you,
Degenerative.
and yeah, it's degenerative. Your body just starts kind of giving up on you. Your brain function is completely there. I think the most famous person would either be Lou Gehrig's or Stephen Hawking. And like that's kind of like when you think of Stephen Hawking, like brilliant mind, he just didn't have the physical capabilities of anything. But it doesn't mess with any cognitive function. It's all physical, just degeneration.
All right, so
yeah.
let's do this. All right, there it is.
Hemotrope.
ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a neurodegenerative disease that results in the progressive loss in motor neurons that controls voluntary muscles. Wow, ALS is commonly known as motor neuron disease. My goodness, we're just getting started. All right.
Yeah, so your
Yeah.
brain and your muscles
Yeah.
are not
Good Lord.
But
talking.
if
Yeah,
we want to
communicating.
so we advance the sports
Yeah.
stories to the next hurricane.
Yeah.
Is Hurricane Ida, and it hits same exact date as Hurricane Katrina, August 29th.
Which is just eerie.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, there is hurricane season, but the fact that it was the anniversary
it was crazy. Yeah, and so we get to a point. I believe it hit on Monday is when it first hit, Monday or Tuesday, but it kept building up power, and so Saturday, I was like, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be like a bad hurricane, and so it got to a point. And then I was like, wait, Chicago's next weekend.
How are we gonna get there?
How am I, like, if this hits me, like, and like power goes down and like stuff happens, like I'm not gonna be able to go to Chicago. I'm in the main draw already. Like,
Like, I'm getting to
like, I need
Chicago.
get to Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I end up just driving on Saturday. I was like, you know what, I'm getting out. Like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get there. I end up driving up to Tennessee at my old school. At
I think that's when
Memorial.
you made that post.
Yeah, that's when I made the post.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. Always getting to see everybody there. My coach was incredibly helpful. We're still able to lift and to get some practice in. And
that's
there's one beach court
I
on
was
the
gonna
campus.
say, is there? Yeah.
I was like, that's all I need. I just need one.
How
I had
many
like
ki- how
I had
many-
like 4 volleyballs. I had like 4 MVP volleyballs, and I was
Love it. That's all you need.
like
Yeah.
scrambling, grabbing volleyballs from teammates. Like, yo, I just need anything.
Yeah. How many students are at Lincoln Memorial?
There's like 2,500 undergrad, but there's only like 1,000 on campus.
Oh, okay.
So very small on-campus community. That's pretty much all athletes.
Okay.
Because
Wow.
athletes, if you had a scholarship there, you had to stay on campus.
Okay.
So it was a lot of on campus was athletes, and there's a lot of commuters, like 15, 20 minutes
like
away.
think about how much smaller that is than just even a high school around here.
Yeah.
Like that is a tiny community. It's pretty.
Yeah.
And how many different? Do you know how many different teams they have?
I think we're up to like 21. They just added like wrestling
Holy-
and something else. I think yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of it's based, like a lot of the community there is based around athletics.
That's kind of cool.
I think there's like 500.
There's a lot of good stories there.
500 or 600 athletes, I think.
That's neat. That's really cool. Okay, so you stop in and you stay. And what's the name of the town? Where's
Harrogate. Cumberland Gap is like literally the town next over. That's the one that people know.
Yeah.
Because Cumberland Gap
there's
is
a song.
Yeah, the song, and then
Yeah.
it's also the first time that people crossed over from Kentucky to Tennessee. It's the first place where
that's right.
anybody ever crossed.
Oh,
But yeah, the
cool.
Darius Rucker song is the one
Yeah.
that made it popular. Man,
Yeah.
whenever it was a Saturday night and we were out at the bar,
I bet
that
that's
was
playing.
that was the song. Everyone, if you heard that song, everybody would go
goes
crazy.
I love it.
But yeah, so we end up leaving. I had 2 people with me.
So you're with your partner. You're playing with
No, he wasn't even there. He was already up.
Okay.
I think he was up at home because he's from Michigan, which is like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
And it's like the week before, I'm just gonna go hang out with family, whatever. And I actually had one of my friends with me from home. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get out. He was supposed to be going to Bonnaroo, the music festival.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the same weekend. He's like, you know what? I'll just stay there for the week. My friends will pick me up in Knoxville, which is like an hour away.
Okay.
And then I'll go over with you. And then he ends up driving to Nashville, where it gets canceled because of the weather from the hurricane.
Yeah.
Cancels that.
Blows
He ends up
through.
flying to Chicago back with us. And then another athlete of yours, Kaylee York.
Love her.
She couldn't go back to Louisiana on her flight. She was
Right.
in North Carolina for the weekend for a wedding. And her family, it was like a 2-hour drive. So we just like met in the middle. And like she stayed the week as well. And we practiced together and just tried to get some reps in. And she did this, like the same situation basically. But like we took her in, we road tripped all the way up to Chicago.
Wow.
And got to play. And it was kind of tough. It was a tough week because like it was the same thing. It wasn't as long of a time, but like there was like, I'm just like keeping up with news updates on my phone.
I was gonna say, you had to be worried about so many other things.
Yeah, and so it was really tough. In like the first set, I played against Taylor and Jake.
Oh, wow.
And like I struggled. I just wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like I thankfully was just, I kind of like stepped back for a moment and was like, like, and I wanted to play it for the people of Louisiana at that time, but then like. I felt it more that second time, you know what I mean? Like, I felt pressured in the first set, and he's like, you know what? Let's take a step back here, and like, you know what? Like, no matter what, they're gonna be proud. 1, and then like 2, let's just go be passionate, be the person that you are on the court.
Yeah.
And that helped out a lot. But
did you know your family was safe
at that point during the tournament? Yes.
Okay.
But like up until Wednesday or Thursday, I was still checking updates. There wasn't really. I'd get like maybe a text message here. They're like, still okay. But then like there was stuff going on for a couple of days after because there was a lot of problems. There was like water pipes that busted. There was fires that were going on. There was like the towers, like the power, like for the power were like collapsing. And like it wasn't all happening at the same time. Like it was like once in a while you like see, oh crap, there's another bad thing that just happened. And there was one there, like my dad's house, like 2 blocks away from it, there was like this like string of fires, and like it was like an entire block of like apartments that were just burnt to the ground. And I'm like freaking out trying to call him, like, this isn't far from his house. That fire easily in the middle of the night could have just affected like that. And like thankfully,
and it's like an ongoing struggle. It's these string of things versus like the only thing I can say is like we've been through earthquakes here, but like these hurricanes and the way that things keep happening and keep coming and the communication completely breaks down. I mean, that is a lot to live through, and it's not like you get through one moment and you go, okay, everything's good. It's like it's going to keep coming, which that's a lot to manage.
That's where the resilience comes in.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? Like, punch me 6 times, I'm gonna get up 7.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
come on, throw another one if you really need to. We're gonna figure out how to. And I think it's honestly helped. Like just the mindset of living there applies really, really well to sports. Like you'll see a lot of athletes from like New Orleans. I feel like are just really resilient people. Like OBJ, like this guy has just gone like through so much in Cleveland, and like people are like bashing him, like, no, you're the problem, like all this. And he ends up, he's like, you know what? Like, I'm finally throwing the cards on the table, like, cut me. And I'll go somewhere else and I'll show you it wasn't me. And he did that.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, he didn't care what people thought about him, what people were saying about him, that he wasn't getting his playing time, like that he was going through all these struggles. But in the end, he's like, you know what? I'm still betting on myself. And
yeah.
Beckham Jr.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No.
Former John.
Yeah.
What do you think that key is to, like, to know yourself that well? And like I say, you're not that, how old are you?
24.
24. I mean, there's a maturity to you and the way you carry yourself that's like, it's really impressive. Like, I have a son that's 4 years younger than you, and my hat's off to him. I love Luke, but I'm like,
I feel like I've been like this since I've been like 18 now,
so I mean, you think you're an old soul to some extent.
For sure.
And which I love. I'm always considered myself that too. And it's an interesting way to grow up because you kind of can see things, right? You have that sense of observation and what you can learn from it. But
I think where it kind of comes from for me, and I feel like a lot of people always use like their circumstances as a crutch. Like, so for me, like my parents have been divorced 2 times each. And like, that's not an easy thing that crumbles a lot of people. And there's a lot of tough situations. I had some pretty tough situations in divorces and stuff like that as well. But like the one thing where like it made me better, and like this is where you gotta like focus on like, okay, like your circumstances can be really bad, but like what is like one thing that you can get better from out of it still. And so for this one for me, like my mom went through her second divorce. And my sister at the time was like 8, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like 13, 14 years old. It's kind of the same time I started playing volleyball.
Okay.
It's kind of when it all started happening. And I had to like start picking up responsibility more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, okay, mom's working a double tonight. You've got to make sure your sister gets her homework done. You've got to make sure your sister's fed. Your mom's going to do your best. We're going to have stuff in the fridge, which was always, you know what, she always took care of us first.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like, you know what, you're going to pick up a little bit of responsibility. You know what, you're going to work a second job, and you're going to, if you want to get places and you want to go places, you're going to have to pay for all your gas and stuff. You're going to have to make sure, like, you're going to take care of yourself on top of that. And then on top of that, like, your mom is just going through a second divorce, and there's a lot of emotional struggle that goes on with that, and she's struggling financially and like relationship wise, and like that's a lot of strain on one person to have.
Yeah.
And thankfully she felt comfortable enough to where she could start sharing that with me. So there's plenty of times where like, I mean, I'm like at certain points I'm just like sitting on my bed, my mom's just crying to me.
Wow. And
like you learn, like there's nothing that'll like you won't feel like you need to do something as bad as when like your mom. Like I love like my dad, great guy, but there's like something like I feel like that motherly, like
mothers and
like,
sons, there's a bond.
And
for
so
sure.
and so like when that happened, you're like, you know what, like that's not like nobody's okay. Like nobody can make you feel like that ever again. Like nobody is gonna make you feel like that. The circumstances that we're in like aren't gonna last forever. Like I'm helping try and get out of this. Like I'm gonna do everything I need to do, and like we're gonna get out of this, and like we're gonna be better from it. And it's tough in that moment, but like we believed, and like we're in a great spot now, which is awesome.
That's so powerful for me to hear, because I mean obviously it relates to my own story, and I look at what sent me on a real self-reflective journey was my own divorce, and kind of waking up and going, wait, what happened? Like, how did I get here? And I started writing, because that like method of journaling, really, I'd always journaled, but then I thought like maybe my kids, I want them to know what I was thinking at certain points, right? And they were younger, but like, yeah, I mean, it really can be that life is not perfect, right? But if something like that instills in you these values that like, okay, how do I make situations better rather than falling victim to my circumstances and saying, and I tell my kids this all the time, I said it before when I came in here, but like what you focus on grows, right? So how can I be better for the next generation, for the next relationship I'm in? How do I be a better teammate? It's all related.
Yeah.
It's all related, and it all goes back, and Jason's got a story like this, Sean's got a story like this. Everybody that I know has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder from something that was really tough.
Yeah.
But they had the guts and the courage to self-reflect and look back and go, how can I use this to make myself a better person and help the people around me? And so I didn't even know that story from you, but, you know, from just knowing Sean and him saying, okay, you got to talk to this guy, you got to talk to this guy. And it led me to these stories, and I'm so grateful for that. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this chat as much as I am. For more inspiring conversations, go to BeBetterWithWendyJones.com. To me, there's a real turning point in society right now where we're looking for the light. Like, if you turn on the news, the stories are so bad.
Well, it's awesome now because I feel like the majority of people are finally realizing, like, you know what, like, they're just trying to divide us right now. That's all that's happening is, like, we don't want anything. Like, we don't want, like, good, positive news.
Right.
But people are, like, I feel like are starting to finally look for that.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, you know what? I want to find something that makes me happy. I want to find, like, something out there that makes me feel good. Or there's a story out there that's, you know what? That's good. There's positive energy out there.
Yeah. And I feel like it's intergenerational. And that's why I love these stories, because we can tell them from, you know, my 40-year-old, 40-something perspective, and your 20s, and you know, Ashley's, we're always talking, she's in her 30s, and I had a Christmas party, and I had some people there from their 20s to their 70s, and everyone's talking, and it's that optimism that runs through all of those stories. No one's talking about what's on the news. Nobody feels like that has anything to do with what their day-to-day is, except for the fact that you're paying $7 for gas right now. But other than that, you know, I mean, it's like we band together through these stories, and that's the whole... You know, when you go out and watch people do what they're good at, and that's what I love to do, is see what someone's good at and connect it with the world.
Yeah.
And these stories are the ones that need to be told, because there are so many people going through hard relationships. There are so many people, you know, going through their struggles. But when people feel bold enough to tell their story and say, like, that happened to me too, there's this bond that's created. Rather than the shame of, like, oh, my mom's divorced, or I went through this. Like, it's so much more powerful when we connect through those stories that unite us, even when they're hard, you know? Yeah. So, I didn't know that about you. So that's what I love about these conversations.
The whole, like, divorce thing, I think, made me really grow up fast, and it made me realize, like, it doesn't matter, like, because, like, both my first step parents weren't, in my eyes, I mean, I'm not like, I mean, I don't feel like they were, one, very good for either of my parents, and then two, like, weren't very good to me fully. And so, like, learning to finally, like, stand up for myself, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And, like, there was times where, like, and it was from both households, there was times where they were both fighting us both towards the end of their relationships, and I was like, you know what, I've had enough. And so, like, I, like, screamed back. There probably was profanity that shouldn't have been said by a 14-year-old, 13-year-old me. Yeah. But I just screamed at him, and then walked out the house, and then just walked to the other person's house. Like, I walked to my mom's house after getting in a fight with my stepmom one time, and then my mom and my stepdad were in a fight. It's like 2 a.m, and I have, like, school the next day, and I just called my dad up. I was like, hey, just let me know when you're at the house. I'm just gonna walk out the door, and, like, I have my school stuff ready for tomorrow, but I'm walking out the door. And then, like, I'm walking down the stairs, and as, like, I'm walking down the stairs, like, my mom's freaking out. She's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm leaving. This is not okay. Like, I need to go to sleep, and I have to go to school tomorrow, and I can't go to sleep with you two screaming. And so, like learning to, like, kind of, like, step up and, like, you know what, I'm not gonna just let people tell me what to do. And that was a huge thing for me, I think, honestly. Yeah, no, that is huge. I mean, a healthy disagreement versus that type of situation. Well, I think in that one too, it was more like they thought I was asleep. You know what I mean? So it's like 2 a.m. Like, yeah, the kids are asleep. You can't lie to your kids. No. Like, that is something I have learned. Like, you might be able to pull it off against a lot of other people, but kids will always know that they figure out what's going on. And obviously, when you're yelling and screaming, kids wake up. Like, I mean, that's like a lack of awareness. And granted, you're away in some moment that you've been pulled out. You're completely emotionally unregulated. So, but it's not okay. And to have healthy disagreements for kids to know that, like, a relationship's not always, like, coming up roses, but that completely unacceptable. And then for you to find your voice, now you're probably growing up a lot faster than maybe, you know, the ideal or that you would wish. But what's ideal? And what family doesn't have? It's always about reversing these. What little things can we do to create awareness, to make little changes, right? That make that next generation
more self-aware, more cognizant of what they want their relationships to look like, rather than repeating that pattern. And if there's anything for me that's like my North Star, it's this generational healing pattern that like, okay, how do I take that terrible situation that I'm sure your mom today would say, I am so sorry I put you in that situation. It's heartbreaking.
But I wouldn't take it back. Like, you know what I mean?
But
like,
look where, I mean, the awareness
it leads to
that
positivity
you have.
and growth over time. And I think that's like, so I got to coach a lot of juniors back in Louisiana, and now I get to coach a good bit here. And like, I mean, you hear a lot of stories like these girls are going through and stuff like that. They're tough, and they're really difficult situations. And sometimes it's really tough because in the moment, like they give you a situation and you're like, I don't know what you need to do right now. Yeah. Like you're in a really tough situation. You have to be like, I empathize with you and like, I feel for you. But like, I either need to know more about the situation, or two, like, the situation has to play out a little bit more for you, like for me to give you good advice. Yeah. And like, I feel like it's so difficult because like these girls, especially here, oh my gosh, like especially in volleyball, like the pressure, like that's demanded, and like the parents put so much pressure. They put so much pressure on themselves. Like they put like their peers are like there's so much pressure, like to look a certain way or to be a certain way, or and like if like one person's not like in like the norm, then like you do like they get made fun of for that, you know what I mean? And then like, okay, then you're dealing with a super tough situation at home, and then that just all builds up, and it leads to some tough situations for them. And I feel for them, and my big thing is like I want to be able to help do that, and like try and find like, you know what, you're in a tough situation, but let's find a way that even right now we can find a way for you to grow even when it's really tough. Yeah.
And sadly, like these painful situations do create a lot of growth, especially if you can find one catalyst or one person that can help a younger person download that story and turn it into something where they feel safe, they have a place to kind of drop it, right? Because now it's like everything's coming in 24/7. Like you have everything to compare it to. It's on your phone, it's on the court, it's at when you any practice you go to, or at school. You know, I watched my own son like during COVID do so much better, which everyone was doing worse, and I was not a huge Zoom school fan, but I watched him thrive when he came into my home and did his own work without the noise of the classroom, where he could ask a question without feeling called out. And that sense
raising
of
your
being
hand.
different.
Raising your hand was like, that's like a big thing for people like growing up. They're like, I don't want to be the one to raise your like my hand. Like that's like terrifying to most people.
Right. It's taken me I used to be the kid that would walk in and sit in the back of the classroom because I had this huge fear of being seen. And now I'm the one who comes in and sits in the front row. But that's taken me 45 years of life. Yeah. You know what I mean? And to teach, now I want to look at young people and go like, don't be scared. Like I was sitting at a dinner the other night and this 13-year-old's like, I want to have a podcast. I'm like, you could start one tomorrow, kid. Like, let's go. You want. Yeah. And you know, but it's like bringing that out at a younger age, but all the things they're coming through, they're comparing, and the greatest joy you'll ever get is just learning how to be yourself. You don't have to be like anybody else, right? Like you grabbed onto volleyball without any, like honestly, it's organic.
That like helped me because I mean, obviously, like I was saying, like right when I started playing is kind of when all that started happening, and like
it's huge.
That's also during like the end of middle school, beginning of high school, where like your huge identity, like I have no clue. No. And like thankfully I got grabbed up by this community. Like Coconut has an amazing community of people, and like just was kind of taken under their wing, you know what I mean? And like I think that's also where the maturity and stuff comes in. I wasn't ever really around people my age. I was more, all my friends right now are older by like at least 4 to 5 years. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like now I'm hanging around older people. I'm in situations that older people are already in, and like learning from them and seeing what they're doing. And even like at that age, like you can see if somebody's doing something dumb, you know what I mean? Like it's blatantly dumb. Yeah. You're like, okay, whenever I grow up, I don't want to do that.
It's a good gene to have, to know that, like, to see that outright. Yes. And now, birth order wise, are you the oldest?
Oldest, yeah.
Yeah. You definitely have a firstborn vibe. But
how many siblings?
I just have a little sister, a half sister.
Yeah. And how many years apart? You're like...
She just turned 7 years.
Okay. So yeah, that's a big gap. Yeah. So you kind of do turn into, like Jason was saying, you have a little bit of the father figure. I think they say after 5 years, but I'm always really curious with birth order and, you know, family dynamics and stuff. They play so huge into self-awareness and that journey. But,
whoa. Hold on a second. You're 24. So that means when I met you in Hermosa Beach, you were 21 in 2019. That play-in with Valela. Holy sugar!
And that wasn't my first play-in either.
No. New York
What tournament
New York was.
was that? Your first AVP was New York?
No, my first one was in New Orleans when they were there in 2014 and 15, I think. They were either 15,
Oh my gosh.
16 or
So
14, 15.
You were a baby.
I got taken out of school so I could play in the qualifier,
That is so fun.
which is awesome.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Was it one of those towns that like said closed for volleyball, like school,
wish.
or like the barber shop?
I wish it was, but I mean, no. Like I said, we love our Saints, and if it ain't football, then we ain't closing nothing for it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, it's been fun because meeting all of you guys and taking like the girls. Tony and I went to the Long Beach State game, and she's like, "This is the first men's volleyball game I've ever been to."
Really?
And I was like, wow, you have all this volleyball. I mean, 7 years at LSU, all this volleyball knowledge, great player. And I'm like, you've never seen men's volleyball. And for me, that's
so normal.
It's so normal, right? I mean, even in the 80s growing up in Fresno, I'm still friends with the coach that brought teams down here to play Costa. And like, I've been around men's volleyball for so long, but it's so fun to see the game growing.
Yeah.
And have players like you that are, have this personality and like a way of playing and something to grab onto, a story to grab onto that grows the sport.
It's so cool because for me now, like a lot of these clubs in the Southeast, and that's really for me, like I'm gonna no matter how long I live in California, I'm from the South. Like you ain't gonna take the South out of me. There's too much deep in there that's you ain't changing it.
That's a good thing. I mean, I'm a California native, but I do think you guys have the grit, the discipline, the humble nature that you bring to the sport, and really any arena it seems like you guys walk into, like you can feel it. And to be for you to be coaching kids that are like you're saying in this, we have a huge entitlement problem in this area, and I'm sure you see it coaching. And I think that maybe it's across the country to some extent. And I know this is where I am. This is my home base right now, but I see it. And you guys have a work ethic that's just different.
Yeah,
it's different.
What are you gonna do about it?
It's
well, we discussed this before, right? Okay, this just happened. That's unfortunate. What do I do about it? What do I do next? And you are, man, as far as this dude's the king of next man up. I mean, could you share the story on her podcast? And I know you
no.
We got.
I have one question
Whatever.
before we wrap, but I would like you to share the story about briefly
Seaside?
or the long way about Atlanta.
Yeah.
Losing in the qualifier.
Briefly before that,
the
but
floor is yours.
I did want to say with the Southeast thing,
Please.
I feel great because I feel like an ambassador now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like it's finally like there's boys are growing in the South.
Yeah.
And like it kind of feels cool because for the most part, like I'm the guy that's looked up to, and so like now I can be the influence in trying to like grow volleyball in an entire region, which is awesome.
It is so huge.
And not only was I from the Southeast, I stayed in the Southeast.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the big difference. There's plenty of great volleyball players that have come from the Southeast, but
they leave.
I decided to make the decision, you know what? Like, I'm staying in the Southeast for college.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah. And so I think that was a huge thing. Like, you know what? We don't have to, we can do it here. And, like, that was awesome.
It's the only way you grow the game.
Yeah.
If you got good coaching, stay.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
And so I guess the story in Atlanta now. Yeah, so we were in the last round of the qualifier. We make it to the round to get in against Avery and Miles Partain. Up 19-16 in the second set after we won the first. Yeah, just like one of those young moments where you look back on it like 10 minutes after and you're like, I was looking too far ahead. I was like, you know what, we're in the main draw. Where do we need to go stay? Like whatever, just like that. That one moment, I'm like, all right, we're about to side out here. Maybe I'm trying to make it look too cool and I'm trying to bounce the ball or something. Mm-hmm. And okay, block 17-19. And then like things start change. And then you're like, the whole momentum changes and you lose. Yeah. And I mean, that was like a big learning moment. Okay. Not the brightest time, like where you feel like, wow, I really just let that one go. And those are the tough games. Yeah. Like, you know what? It wasn't anything they did. It was what I did. But anyway, we end up going to the airport straight after that because Thursday is a qualifier, but Seaside starts Friday. And
legendary tournament in Oregon.
Yes, I was gonna say, like, one of the largest volleyball tournaments in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. If you haven't been, it's probably the two I would recommend if you want really good beach volleyball, like just grassroots, is Fuddpuckers in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and Seaside. That's grass.
Yeah.
I said beach. That's
Yeah.
why I said beach. I know, I got you. So we end up losing. We get to the airport because we're like, you know what? We just got to go play. We were already signed up, and it gets you a bid into Chicago.
Yeah.
So we were like, all right, let's go and qualify, I guess, this time.
Yeah.
We got chance number 2. We get chance at redemption.
You're like, okay, my heart's broken for 30 seconds, and now I got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get to our, we have separate flights. So Logan ends up getting in like 2 a.m. to Portland. And then I fly into Phoenix for my layover. But my flight gets delayed, so I miss my connection to Portland for the night. And so I'm stuck in Phoenix, and I figured out on the flight that I was going to be late because they told us while we were there, like, yeah, we're delayed. We're going to let you still try and make your connection. But then we had one of those like weird things where it's like, oh, yeah, for no reason, you just get stuck on the runway for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. And like, you know, the plane's like super hot and you're just like, I'm dying. I'm miserable. Just get me up in the air. Give me some air conditioning.
Yes.
I would just like a glass of water, something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, like I need some kind of accommodation.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting on this hot tarmac in
nothing.
Atlanta in August. And I have no air conditioning, no water. I'm stuck packed like a can of sardines in this plane. This is miserable.
I'm trying to get to another tournament.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get across the country.
Yeah.
And so we end up missing, or I missed my connection in Phoenix. But while I'm on the flight, I buy my $8 Wi-Fi from Southwest, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out what's the earliest flight out of Phoenix to get to Portland. And so I get like I dropped like $350 just to like try and get to the tournament on top of the flight I already had, because I mean Atlanta to Portland isn't a cheap flight either.
No.
But I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm dropping this. I'm getting this flight on Alaskan Airlines, and I'm going to get there. My flight lands at like 10, I think.
Yeah.
And we play at 12. But for anybody who doesn't know Seaside, Portland's an hour and a half drive to Seaside. Yeah. So I grab my bags right away off the plane. Logan picks me up in the car like 10:15. We bust our butts to get to Seaside, get there at like 11:30-ish, but there's no parking because it's the biggest beach volleyball tournament in the country.
Right.
So it takes like 20 minutes to park. It's 11:45, 11:50. And
are you talking to somebody like push our matches back as far as you can?
We were trying. I mean, thankfully we had to buy our first match.
Okay.
And so our first match was at 12 p.m. But what did I just say? We got in onto the courts at 11:50. Okay. We got onto the court at 11:50 to warm up straight out of the car.
Oh.
And we're playing two incredible indoor volleyball players in Tanner Woods and Evan Enriquez, who like two studs
legendary,
indoor. Yeah. And so, I mean, Tanner is just bombing jump serves at us. Like, and I mean, like, I'm like 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. Because I mean, like, my flight didn't get until 1 a.m.
up on a plane. Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even like barely keep my eyes open right now. And this dude's about to hit a ball through my chest.
Yeah.
And I mean, thankfully we pull that game out. We make it all the way through Friday. We lose to Travis Murder and Adam Roberts in the winners quarters. We thankfully didn't have to play another game that day. So I was like, all right, give me some food, give me some water, and give me a bed. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't need anything else after this. And so got all that, refreshed the next day, come back, play them in the finals, and we make it into Chicago, which leads into another crazy story of the hurricane.
I mean, this is when you look back on this. I sound old, but like when you look back on these stories, like the life you are creating for yourself. I mean, it's hard when you're in it. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you're grateful for it. I can tell. Yeah. But you're living it right now. And, like, when you look back on these things, like, I hope you're writing some of this stuff down, because these are stories you never want to forget. And granted, you'll have these mediums like we don't have. But, like, these stories, they're priceless. Like,
and it's, like, crazy to me now. I mean, like, for me, that was like in the moment, it's normal. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally. But see, that's,
I'm
I
like,
think
what?
that's
Of course, I'm
where
gonna
the
do that. Like,
but
why
that's
wouldn't
where
I?
the success comes from.
And then like,
you don't question it. You just go.
and then you like, I write up my little story on Instagram for the weekend. I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. Maybe people will like this. And like, I swear this story, anywhere I go now, like
Everyone wants to hear
everybody
it.
wants to hear it.
Yeah.
And like, just hear like, and because I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And like right after that, I mean, if you want to even go further, so right after we win Seaside, we fly into here, and we play Manhattan the next week.
Yeah.
And so that was my first main draw ever. So all that into the first main draw, which is crazy.
And for your first main draw to be Manhattan.
Yeah,
like
which
that's
is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, dude.
So great. So great.
I told you that's the story of this guy's life.
I know.
Stuff happens. Okay, it just happened. What comes next? What do I do? I'm like, I can't say enough. I mean, I said it all on the previous episode, but Wendy, I have one question for him that's connected to this logically. I promise, because he bared through 2 hours of me just being all over the place. I think he needed counseling. I think he needed counseling after that. No, Cory, you do a really good job of taking care of things that you can control. All right. And you also acknowledge there's some things that are beyond your control. So for the sake of volleyball, especially you're coaching juniors, and especially the people that are coming up behind you, especially since they're older players, a little bit older than you, still trying to get into the draw, and sometimes they're in the draw and sometimes they're not. I want you to give me 5 things that you will always control that your opponent can't take away.
Yeah.
And they can be included but not limited to on-court controls or off-the-court controls. For example, conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Or being in the right starting spot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think for me, and it's the easiest one, and it's on-court, and it's my service pressure. I feel like I can compete with anybody, not just in the world.
That's volleyball.
In the world, service pressure-wise,
Huge.
I feel like my serve, like when my serve is on, I can beat anybody. Then it doesn't matter who it is. I'll beat you if my serve is like doing good. So that's, I think, my biggest controllable. And like it's how I base my game. You know what I mean? Like if I can serve well, then we're gonna be able to do a lot of really good things. Nice. I think another thing is my like physical shape. I feel like I was blessed with a good bit of athleticism, but like I wasn't like, everybody's like, oh, you jump so well, you swing so hard, but like that wasn't always how it was. You know what I mean? Part of when I was going out to Coconut Beach when I was younger is like there was a time where there's this guy named Ruben. He would just do like these, it was like kind of obscure, like you're like, how are you teaching me fundamentals right now? It's not like the most like, okay, cookie cutter, like, okay, this is how we do it. We're doing a bunch of different crazy stuff. I'm like throwing medicine balls and stuff, and like doing sit-ups with medicine balls, setting basketballs, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then like we're doing box jumps on the bleachers. So I mean, obviously you don't want to miss the box jump, because I mean, if you miss it,
scary.
you're cutting yourself on the side of the bleachers.
Yeah.
But like I feel like that is kind of how I started to become better physically. You know what I mean? Like, is just being out in the sand and being better. Like, just your body, the more you move around in this stuff, the better you're going to feel in it. Yeah. But like physically, like I had to work really hard. Going into college, I was 180 pounds and like same height pretty much. Maybe I grew a half an inch, but I'm like 210 now. So
and
I
how
put
tall
on
are you?
6'4".
Okay.
So yeah. I put on 30 pounds of muscle. Like in college.
Huge.
That's like a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot of muscle. Yeah. So like a lot of people like see me now and they're like, oh yeah, like you're a really good jumper. You were blessed with that. You really have hard swing. I was like,
it's more to it than that.
I wasn't blessed with that stuff. I wish I was, but like I worked my butt off to try and be able to jump as high as I do and to be able to swing hard. And I do a lot on top of that to maintain my body. Like I do a lot of stuff. So this will be number 3 is taking care of my body.
Nutrition,
Well, not even that, like making sure, because like I do put a lot of stress on my legs and a lot of stress on my shoulder. And so keeping on top of like stretching and like recovery and stuff like that to make sure that all of that is healthy. Yeah. Nutrition has become number 4. I used to not be great nutrition wise. And honestly, the biggest difference, I started doing it was from my junior to my senior year in college. And my thing was my first 3 years in college, I wasn't like an All-American or anything. My third year, I really felt like I should have been. I led the nation in aces per set, and I led the nation in points per set. So I led the nation in 2 categories.
Yeah, that's huge.
And so I felt at that point, I was like, how am I not an All-American? How am I not at least mentioned, an honorable mention? And, I mean, it was what it was, but I was like, you know what? Like, this year, coming up, nothing will be left untouched. Everything that needs to be done will be done. And I cleaned my diet up. Thankfully, my senior year, I had taken like a bunch of like AP and classes and stuff in high school. And so my senior year was pretty light load. And so I split it up to where I had like 6 hours each semester to finish up. And so I was like, all my free time, I'm going to spend cooking. And I'm just going to cook super clean. I'm going to get into really good shape, like nutrition-wise.
You're such a smart kid.
And so like I made the change, and I was like, how did I not like?
How do I feel so much better?
Yeah,
I mean, what?
Like, you know what I mean?
Like electric,
I was like doing all this other stuff before, but all I changed was like the stuff I eat. Like, there's no way that makes you feel that much better. And then I was like, okay, that's something I gotta change.
Were you enjoying it? Like the cooking.
So always like since growing up, I was telling you, like cooking for my sister and stuff. I honestly started to enjoy cooking, and like I like making different things, and still to this day, like
so funny.
I won't let Savvy let Savvy cook. I'm like, nope, I'm making dinner every night. Like,
Savvy, you're lucky. What a rock star. That's it. Like, I'm voting for that.
Wait a second. The Louisiana guy is cooking
yeah.
for the Californian. As far as stereotypes go, that's an ultimate reversal.
Yeah, but the South makes the best food, so that's just naturally how it's got to be.
Yeah.
One more controllable.
And so my last controllable, I feel like, is my mindset and how I approach things. Well, attitude, I think, is more where I'm going, because I feel like a lot of the times, like when I'm playing my best, I act a certain way on the court. You know what I mean? And like that happens to be very vocal, not only just to my teammate. So choosing to have high communication is a thing. You know what I mean? That's an attitude thing. Definitely. Like you can choose not to talk, and that's like, okay, you're having a bad attitude. Yeah. I did that last Friday, and I had to apologize to Bill. I was like, you know what? I'm having a bad day. I didn't talk a lot. That's on me. I'm sorry. And then 2 is how you're using your energy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yes. And I think this one comes a lot from Joey.
It's on the board.
Yep. Number 4, energy. I'm huge on energy.
It was actually sitting behind you when you were doing that.
But I think the emotion that you play with and how you make other people feel is really, really important. So 1, you can make your partner feel really shitty. That doesn't do anything, right? Nope. You can make your partner not really feel anything, or you can make your partner feel really, really good about themselves. And like most people, what am I saying? Most people, everyone, if somebody makes you feel good about yourself, you're going to like that person. You know what I mean? Like if you're going
to rise to the occasion.
Exactly.
Right?
And like, so they want to play for you now. So you know what I mean? Like if you're like hyping them up, like then they're going to play for you and be very, very excited about that. And like, but the thing is like, there's like an art and a skill to this, because not everybody gets pumped the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like some people don't like attention. Yeah. So like how do you get this person to feel
that belief
really good about themselves when they don't want attention? You know what I mean? Like I could be like, this guy is so good, but like if he doesn't want the attention, how do you make him feel good without giving him attention? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's like a huge skill that Joey like mastered up here socially. Like just teaching, like I've learned so much from him. He's like, you know what? It's getting scary, because like before this, socially you had no clue what you were doing, but now that we've talked, I mean, like I coached the same club as him. We're spending like 6-7 hours a day together. Yeah. And so like just learning, and like that guy just like naturally does it. And so like picking up stuff from him, I was like, oh man, if he knew how to use this like the right way, he would be unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And that's also like the power of mentorship. Like I'm so huge on that. Yeah. Like I don't know, you guys know Cole Fierce, like he's been spending time skating and surfing with Matthew, with my 14-year-old, because you can recognize that quiet resilience and kind of just empathy that someone can infuse into another person, and then the potential it brings out in the younger
Yeah.
person. So like what you're saying Joey did for you, and then you get to do that and pay it forward
Yeah.
to these kids you're coaching. And like, I mean, that is honestly how the world gets better, you know, just one connection at a time. So that power of mentorship is so huge. I'm huge on that.
And then I even take it further, Jay. So I do it with my partner, right? So you have the 3 ways that you can treat your partner. And then you can take that to the other side, right?
Yeah.
So there's people that like to trash talk. For the most part, I do. Like, you know what I mean? I like to get up and I get loud, but I get loud, you know what I mean? And I think most people mistake my loudness for trash talk. Because most of the time, I'm not saying anything to the other team. It's more just being loud for myself and getting myself pumped. But for the most part, like, people don't like that. So, like, how do you make your opponent feel by your actions and your words? You know what I mean? If it throws your opponent off their game to act a certain way, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Like, in the lines, to me, as long as you're not bringing anything outside the lines, inside the lines, who cares?
For sure.
We're gladiators we're gladiators in the arena. If I'm gonna give you a cheap shot, then I'm gonna give you a cheap shot so I can win.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna go below the belt.
Totally.
So
but that's sports, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
why should
But
volleyball
sometimes
be
you
any
get people
different?
that
Exactly.
complain. You get
Then-
people that complain about that.
Yeah.
Like,
And-
and I'm with you. Like, you stay above the belt, but like, if you can't handle the pressure, then you lose the point.
Get out the thing kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my like, it just happened in Panama City, and it was literally, I got an ace, the other team called a timeout, and I screamed at Bill. I was like, "This is our game, our game."
Yes.
And like, both of them looked back at me, and then they like turned around, and you saw their heads hang a little bit. And I'm like,
Let's go.
You could challenge him, yeah.
thanks for giving me that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, and like all 3 of things of this in the psychological part of things is how you influence a crowd. You know what I mean?
That was.
And so I think you can control that. You can control how a crowd feels about you. You can be an entertainer and you can get them involved.
Casey Patterson.
Yes. And for the most part, like if you love the energy of people, like getting the crowd on your side is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Sharif is extremely likable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's guys that like to be hated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't want you to win.
Yeah.
And then like when you do something like you kind of get like, or like you do something bad and people are cheering when you mess up, and like people thrive off that. You know, some people do, and they want to be they want to be the antagonizer, and they want to be the person that pisses everybody off and gets under their skin. But like it's interesting, and like to me, I don't want to be any one of those. I want to be the one that helps me win the most.
There you go.
And so I think it's more of being a chameleon. The funny one that the way that Joey describes it is you have pirates and ninjas. John Mayer, like you said, biggest ninja out there.
Oh, yeah.
Case Patterson, that dude's a pirate. Up in your face.
Totally.
And that's how he
love
describes
that.
people. That's how he
That's
describes
with everybody.
good.
pirates and ninjas.
And with the crowd, too.
Yeah.
Like,
And
with
so-
the crowd,
and-
his opponent, like, anyone
and
wants to
and
listen.
so now, like for me, he's like, you know what, Evan, you're both. And I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be the chameleon. I want to be able to do whatever. I want to be able to do it wherever I can best insert myself into a situation to positively affect it. That's how I'm going to do it.
That's so great. And that's the key. That's that self-awareness that's going to make you a better athlete, regardless of any technique. And granted, all that stuff's important, but all that self-awareness and that psychological advantage, and that is also what makes it so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's telling a story as you guys are playing.
And I'm pretty stubborn, so good luck changing my mind.
Right? What comes next? What comes next? So
It's a great quality to have. Stubbornness can be used for such good. I think it's amazing. Yeah. I have my number 3 is super stubborn, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna train that for something really amazing, because it can be sticky, but man, it's really good as a resiliency tool.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I okay. Last thing I really want to get into where you're headed tomorrow. Going to Mexico, with Kalinsky.
Yes.
And I'm kind of loving this generational partnership. Like I said, I think those are two great guys that have, you know, like I can see a good energy between you guys. Mm-hmm. And so, are you feeling that?
Yeah, it's complete opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you put a gun to that guy's head and told him to talk, he wouldn't talk. To a person for PR, but I think I'm kind of like, you know what, like, let's
Bring
be
it on.
loud. Let's be
Yeah.
loud. Like, I don't care. But it's been really good. I feel like for me, it's been really helpful in the development of my game and really figuring out what I need to do to be the best that I can be. He's just like the ultimate pros pro, where
Yeah.
he's all about business and and I feel like he's gotten a bad rap for that. You know what I mean? Most people, because I think at a certain point people are scared that if they do that and then they don't achieve something, then they're like, well, I gave it my all and I didn't do it.
This is where I ended up.
Yeah, but why wouldn't it be the other way around? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you want to, you know what? I gave it my all, I gave it my best shot, and this is how it turned out. However it turns out is great, but like, you never know.
But you're not left wondering.
Exactly, you'll never know.
Yeah.
So I think for me, learning that from him, and just, I mean, there's so many different facets to that, and it's how you would just conduct your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how to live out your life so that you're doing it to put yourself in the best position to succeed has been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
And he's just I feel like a lot of people have given him this bad rap of like being this ultra like control guy, but like I feel like the more that you show him that you can do, the more that he actually lets the reins loose and is like, you know what, like he's a guy that's just like, I want to talk about the actions. I want you to be about your actions. And so once you're about your actions, he's like, you know what, okay. Like, I trust you, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know what I mean, like, I feel like that's most people for the most part.
Yeah.
But he's ultimate,
walking the
like,
walk.
yeah.
And to me, the way he plays is like, or even what you're describing is that like life is so much bigger than volleyball, right? So he's actually a guy with a ton of integrity that's living his life, and it shows up in his game.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, and there's precision and there's discipline and there's integrity all the way through.
Also, show me a partnership that's 50-50 control. I'll wait. That partnership doesn't exist. The only one that even comes remotely close is probably Try and Trevor, right? I mean, there's always someone that whatever, and that's the cool thing about Evan Cory. Evan is we talked about you being a changeling or a shapeshifter. You're very good when you need to take control, and you're very good when you need to give up control. Just look no further than your last two partners, right? You got Logan Weber, and now you got Bill Kolinsky, and you will always have good partners because you're able to adapt. I'm not saying that you're significantly better than everybody else for that. Well, maybe I am, but I'm saying that it's a tool that a lot of people don't have in the toolbox.
Well, it's even someone's going to come in and work like
it's even funny because like we talk about that and people talk about Bill being so in control of things, but there was a game in Panama City. It was like, thank you for being in control. And like I was like, yep. And you said it couldn't be done, everyone. No, but I mean, like, I think it's just the important thing is when you look at a partnership, it's not even in volleyball. I mean, volleyball and partnerships in life are just so comparable. Like, it's like, you know, like everyone's not always going to be at the top of their game all the time. But it's no matter what, one, you believe in that person, and then two, you're going to do whatever you can do to try and make that person succeed and still be successful, because if they win, you win in both parts.
I mean, that's beautiful. Then that is truly, that's it. Because I even think the kids you're coaching, and this is another thing like you see in beach volleyball, maybe it's this way across, tennis, but sports where maybe you're competing for spots, right? And you're competing and feeling like there's only a little bit of space. Whereas if you have that ability to just go, I'm going to go out and do my best, and I'm going to look to support everybody around me and watch how everybody gets better, rather than like, I'm beating this person out, and everything kind of starts to shrink, and feel like it changes the mentality of a team, of a sport, of a tournament. And that's what you're describing. And I love that, because honestly, it raises the whole power of the game, right? Everybody gets better. And then the competition's better, and the people who win are like at the top of the game, and it's incredible. But I do think you see a lot in beach volleyball. Maybe it's more on the girls' side, but it gets like, things can get really catty and petty, and I just like it's
tough
terrible.
to navigate.
It's really tough to navigate. It's hard on your psyche. It's hard on younger players coming up.
Yeah, I feel bad. I mean, like throughout the off season, just trying to figure things out, and she'll
I think about them a lot.
Yeah, but
what things to come through, and to really truly believe in yourself when nobody else is calling or saying like, oh, I missed out on this tournament, and saying, oh, there's a lot of blockers out there, but they don't need as many defenders, and you're like amazing, but there's not a spot for you that weekend. I like heartbreaking. Like that is, it's tough. I mean, it takes a ton of resilience to be like, no, I am where I'm supposed to be, and I'm going to keep believing in myself.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and having people around you that will also pump you up and be there to listen is huge, because that's a lot for you guys to come through, coming out of college, and then
and you're not sure, like it's kind of like a whole new like indoctrination of like, I feel like in your freshman and years of high school, college, or whatever, you know what I mean, it's like, how do I fit in? And like figuring out where you fit in beach volleyball is another thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
it's
high
like
school all over
it's
again,
literally
right?
the same. And like there's a lot of that same dilemmas that kind of go through that, and like you're like, I don't know where I fit in at, and I think helping navigate that and stuff is huge.
It's really cool to see that like you guys have each other, and I'm watching this like crop of athletes.
Yeah,
like
and I was gonna say, and it's kind of cool because I mean the majority of your Be Better athletes were all kind of already close, and like we're all kind of friends before it even happened, and so it's just
it's
kind
so
of
fun, because I remember you texted me that day, and I was planning on meeting up with Tony, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I had to bring Savvy with me because she has to meet you, and then we sat there and had coffee, and by the end I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a true and it's fun because there's this part of me, like I said, like my favorite thing to do is just help younger people realize like what is so amazingly special about them, and then see them live that out in the world, because it's just that power of mentorship and potential. And that crew, man, you guys have something really good going, and not to mention the skill, like everybody coming out with this incredible skill, but you also have a community that's just like, it's amazing. And I love being a part of it, and I love what you guys are doing for the sport. So so tell me, you're going to Mexico tomorrow. When do you guys play?
We play on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Hopefully Sunday.
And this is a volleyball
world?
Volleyball world?
No, it's Norseca. So.
Oh, okay. This is,
Classic. If you want to follow me, follow Facebook Live.
Oh, yeah. You do an amazing job.
The dude has a religious following.
He does, but it's because he's consistent.
Crazy.
You're consistent with the way you, like, it is.
It was funny, though, because somebody was telling me, they were like, there were 68 people watching at the same time on your feed. And I was like, I got a following now. Yeah. I got to follow. I mean, that's kind of, it's kind of part of building your brand. You know what I mean? I think the biggest part of building your brand is being consistent. It is. If you're always there, then everybody knows. You know what I mean? But the biggest problem with a lot of people, whenever they try to do that, one day they're there, one day they're not. One day they're there, one day they're not. You got to always be there. Yeah. Whether you want to or not, you got to be there.
Another great life lesson right there. Sometimes you don't feel like doing what you got to do, but you do it anyway. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta let you talk last. That was it.
Oh, okay.
Because I can go on.
I know we always can, but I guess my last question, and this is what I really like to end with, this is what I meant to say. And so you're coaching a lot of young athletes. Like, if you had one piece of advice you could give to your younger self, like, what would that be?
No, I think it's I mean, that's a big part of it, but I think it's really just like I try and just tell myself always go. You always try, because it's trying is a beautiful thing, and you never know if you don't try. And I think my whole volleyball journey never would have even started if that advice hadn't been given to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of us, like we were talking about through a lot of this, you're afraid of judgment. You're trying to figure out a way to fit in. But at a certain point, if you just try and you truly do give all of your effort, you'll usually find like 90% of the time it's positive, rather from the fact that you succeeded or you grew from it.
Perfect growth mindset, right?
Yeah, you've just gotta go out and be okay with failing a couple times, but if you don't try, then you'll never do anything great.
And you got basically what you were afraid of getting, which is failing, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's so logical too, right? Like if you're teaching juniors, right, and a girl takes a playoff, she doesn't dive. You might come up to her and say,
it even applies to volleyball.
No, but you come up to her and you're like, what's the probability that you would have gotten that ball if you went? I'm like 30%. She's like more like 20, and I'm like, okay, 20. Well, how about 25? She's like, okay, 25 then, and I'm like, okay. So what's the probability if you don't go at all?
So I was gonna say
it's zero.
I was gonna say. So you're telling me that in a match people don't hit a high line 4 times?
Yeah.
So that means that one of those plays you dig the high line, you switch that game around right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the
So go that one.
Wouldn't you rather play low probability than
No
No.
probability.
than not go at all?
Yeah.
I mean, dude.
Yeah.
No, Evan. That's a great piece of wisdom.
I think the coolest one was my dad used to tell it to me when I was little, and he's like, you will never like medal on the podium, but if you shoot for gold, the worst you'll end up with the silver.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about Blue Nose Beach and your entrepreneurial
Yeah.
venture. I always like to give a little, because I'm so impressed with volleyball players
Mm-hmm.
that are trying to make, you don't make a lot of money playing volleyball.
Yeah.
So what are the other avenues to where you can keep your game going and maybe do something on the side?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always I don't have like an official website or anything for coaching, but I do a lot of like freelance coaching,
Yeah.
especially now here
Mm-hmm.
at home. I had this kind of setup thing, but now like very open. I'll go run clinics places as long as there's a few people there. I'd
Yeah.
love just trying to spread the word of volleyball as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody wanted to just get me for some lessons for their kid, for themselves,
What's the best way to find you?
just social media,
Yeah.
Evan Cory Volley on social media. And then this is my other entrepreneurial venture is
There we go.
for all those who feel like they like me enough, you can put my face on your chest or your head or
Yeah.
anything. But no. So I feel like I have a pretty unique look and a pretty unique brand. Not just from the fact that of the blue nose, but a unique brand in the fact that it have a very different story and a very different way of playing the game than a lot of people. And so I feel like my brand is kind of there because I like anybody who supports that to me is family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're supporting me and supporting my journey, you're family. And if you're truly trying to help me out, then I'm going to do my best to go out, show you some love and help you out any way I can. So the main ways are either through that coaching stuff, the shirts on BlueNoseBeach.com, and then I also have what's called a Patreon page. I don't know, for anybody who doesn't know what Patreon is, it's like a subscription site, and basically you can pay a certain amount of money each month. You can follow my life. I do like weekly write-ups. I put my calendar out there, so if like you're ever somewhere, you'll know if I'm there or not. I post drills, I post workouts, I post all kind of stuff. Just give you a little bit inside the life of what I try and do to try and take it as far as I can.
Well, and I think what I love about it most is like, since knowing you just for like the last year, like you are uniquely yourself. You're not trying to be like anybody else. You go out there, you work hard, and you are yourself every time. And it's genuine, and I think it's met really well by the volleyball community because your heart's out there, and that's just my favorite thing to see. So, we'll put all of these places to find you in the show notes for sure, because you're definitely one to be followed, and I thank you for being one of the Be Better athletes and helping me with that venture, which is just, great athletes and even better people, and you're one of them. So thanks for being here today.
Of course.
And I wish you all the best of luck in Mexico.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Bill too. Thanks for joining us for the What I Meant to Say podcast. For more real conversations like this one, come on over to the Be Better community at www.BeBetterWithWendyJones.com, a place for athletes and parents to grow and find meaning behind what we do every day so that we can be strong on our own and better together.